All right, the toll-free number, 800-259-9231. We just had Danny tell us that he saw an advertisement in a magazine for the Civilian National Force. Now, what he might have been referring to was the Civilian National Security Force, and that's kind of the term that's being thrown around here for what I suppose is eventually supposed to be this alternative military. It's not really a military, but it's going to be as big as the military, and it's going to not focus on killing people around the world, but perhaps killing Americans, or at least arresting them and throwing them into cages for various different things. And I was looking around during the break trying to dig up some info here, and most of the sites I was clicking on were fairly slow. But here's something from Infowars.com about H.R. 675. Now, apparently this is a bill that would amend Title 10 of the U.S. Code to extend to civilian employees of the Department of Defense the authority to execute warrants, make arrests, and carry firearms. Now, this hasn't been passed yet, but it's, I guess, one of the many pieces of legislation that they're looking to expand this concept of the Civilian National Security Force. It would essentially allow them to make arrests or carry firearms in regards to any offense against the United States. The Posse Comitatus Act limits the powers of the federal government to use the military for law enforcement. The act prohibits members of the federal uniformed services from exercising nominally state law enforcement, police, or peace officer powers that maintain law and order on non-federal property within the United States. H.R. 675 sidesteps Posse Comitatus by defining law enforcement officer of the Department of Defense as a civilian employee of the Department of Defense. So this is apparently their plan, to avoid Posse Comitatus, which I thought they had already circumvented that with the Military Commissions Act back in 2006. They did. But I guess they're still circumventing it or something like that. Essentially, they are creating this alternative branch that is not the military that will essentially do what the military would do in a situation where the military was in the streets. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I guess.
So the Department of Defense includes federal police officers, detectives, criminal investigators, special agents, and game law enforcement officers. In 2005, the Office of Personnel Management partnered with the Department of Homeland Security to create a 21st century human resources management system that fully supports the department's vital mission, blah, 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 blah. I don't really feel like going through the rest of this, but that essentially is what's happening here. They're creating an alternative military that's not really the military, that will likely be as structured.
Likely to shoot your ass as the military?
Yeah, they're likely to be structured and kind of militaristic in the way that they are operating. You know, that there'll be ranks and structure and all of that. It's just that they won't be called the military. Kind of like how when our friend Sam, one of our co-hosts on this show, Sam from ObscureTruth.com, was in jail, they had a gym at the jail.
Mm-hmm.
And because the jail was full, the actual cell blocks were full, they started setting up cots in the gym. Now, it's illegal to house people in a gym in New Hampshire, apparently.
I think it's in the United States, but okay.
Maybe the whole United States. So what did they do to get around that?
They changed the name from gym to multi-purpose room.
Room, yeah. So now it's fully legal to house something like 30-plus people in the gym, as long as they refer to it as the multi-purpose room, because it's not a gym anymore now that they're housing people there. It's a multi-purpose room. And so it sounds kind of to me like what they're doing here is something very similar. And this is just one of, I'm sure, many bills, and whether or not this actually goes through is going to be another question. But rest assured, they are working very, very diligently to come up with new ideas to enslave the American people in the service of the United States. And, of course, you'll be made to look like a bad citizen if you don't want to participate in whatever their little national service program ends up being. If it is as has been proposed by people like Rahm Emanuel, this is one of the major advisors to Barack Obama, his proposal was something to the effect of bringing all the college kids and high school kids into this and having them serve for 3 months, maybe over the summertime, for instance, working, in essence, for the federal government. And the idea would be that it's voluntary because, well, you don't have to send your kids to government school. But if you do send your kids to government school, and I don't recommend that you do, but if you do send your kids to government school and you want them to graduate from government school, then in order to graduate, they would have to go through this national service program. So it's not coercive in that the kids aren't forced to, because they don't have to go to government school. You could always homeschool them, or you could send them to a private school. But you and I both know that most parents aren't going to do that, because most parents, well, first of all, probably feel like they can't afford to send their kids to private school.
Probably because they've been their property taxes are so high, or their rent's so high, because, well, the property taxes are overhead on that they don't that they don't have enough money. I don't know that some people probably wouldn't be very good at managing their money anyway. However, we are talking about their the most important investment to them.
So that's their justification, is that, well, I'm already paying, so I'll send my kids to the government school, and they'll get whatever they get for an education. And I'm sure they tell themselves about how great their government schools are in comparison to the other government schools, but that to me isn't saying very much.
Yes.
But nonetheless, so they'll essentially make it so that the kids are going to have to go through this program to graduate from the government schools. And because everybody's been inculcated with this idea that the government high school diploma is somehow worth something, then that's going to result in people wanting their kids to, oh, okay, Johnny, you're going to have to go through this program. I know you don't want to, but you've got to get your high school diploma. And so little Johnny or Susie they're going to have to go through what is essentially going to be a 3-month-long course, presuming it's 3 months, maybe it'll be a year. Who knows how long they're going to make this requirement. But they'll have to go through however many months of essentially working for the state. And if you thought the government school was, an effective state indoctrination program, wait until they're told about all the wonderful government benefits they'll be able to get if they just, hey, kids, you could work for the government full time when you get out of school. Don't you want to do that? I mean, look how easy this work is. First of all, the work is so easy.
The money's a heck of a lot better than working for a living.
Right. No, the average private sector employee makes X, and we make X times 2.
Because we steal our money.
Well, they won't say that. No, you deserve X times 2 because you're serving the public, right? So they'll just turn it on real thick, and it's just an awful, tyrannical, frightening idea, and it's one that needs to be refused. It's one that people need to refuse to go along with, and so, as I say, as we learn more about what their plot is, then we'll bring it to you. One of the other proposals on the table beyond graduating high school is essentially giving college kids credit. So not giving them cash for working for the state, but essentially giving them like a voucher that is good toward their college education. And because the state has been pretty effective at artificially inflating the cost of education, because, well, educational opportunities at the college level are restricted to those colleges that are essentially obedient to the state or state-run entirely, that means that there aren't a whole lot of free market options, if you will. It's not really a free market at all in education. The college marketplace is less restricted than the government high schools, for instance, but nonetheless it's a still fairly restricted place or market segment. And so the federal government is going to, one of the other proposals is, well, you come and you'll work 40 hours for the government program here, whether it's AmeriCorps or the Peace Corps or the Senior Corps, whatever the hell it is that they're putting you into, or the National Civilian Security Force. You come and work 40 hours, and we'll give you $5,000 towards college, or whatever the proposal. I don't remember the exact numbers, but that will be it. And of course, the kids, college students, some of them are paying their own way.
They got more time than money.
It's going to be something that is attractive to them. So look for that. They're going to go after the college kids and the high school kids first, and then you may see them expand to middle school. Who knows? 800